Get started. So first off, just want to say, so normally, Christmas time, I give you my annual Christmas thoughts. So we're not doing that this year. So instead of, we talk about relevance beyond the music and gifts and all that kind of stuff. So we aren't doing that. I'm going to start by sharing some numbers though. So 40 years, 9 months, and 3 days. That's how long Mike Turner's been here. He started at 24 years old. Owen, how old are you?
22.
22. So imagine, it's hard to imagine.
Thanks. Could never look that young.
We look the exact same.
Yeah.
So he started at 24. So this is hard to believe, but you've been a part of making 39 different products. So when you consider the X-rays, processors, cassettes, 39 different unique products. 4,020 cassettes. Those are 4x5s, 3x4s. They don't include 8x10s because we didn't serial number those.
Okay.
6,287 150p processors. We don't know how many processors were modified, the 8x10 and 10x12, so we didn't number those. 33,000, I have 33,757 X-rays. It's actually a little bit more than that. And that amount is 97% of all the X-rays Golden Engineering has delivered. So that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
You guys can clap for that. Anyway, that's quite an accomplishment. So what we're going to do now is wanted to have you come up here and going to ask you some questions. So I have 16 different questions, and so these range as far as subject matter. So instead of just saying, you have a couple words to say or whatever. So let you answer these. So first question, what's your first memory of Golden Engineering?
Oh, that was easy. When I went in to apply, I went into the old brown building, and I met Ted. And I thought Ted was the owner, because Ted had the white shirt on, and he was real stuffy and professional. And then I looked back in the other part of the business, and there was kind of a haggard-looking guy with kind of like salt and pepper hair, was kind of greasy, and an old white T-shirt, working probably at either the glass lake. And I thought, I know what that old guy does here. And it was John. That was my first memory. I walked in the building, and then I met Ted. He had a white shirt on, and he was real stuffy. And so I got to meet the owner, and I didn't even know that he wasn't the owner for a time or two out there. When I realized that, Ted was just an employee. He ended up almost working for me eventually. Yeah. So yeah, it's the old brown building. The brown building was brand new. It was all clean and everything was tidy, and it was all just like fresh and new. So yeah, I had the darndest time finding the place. I was laid off from another company called Natco, and I went back to Ivy Tech. I was taking some classes while I was laid off, and the instructor and I got along real well, and so he knew I was out of a job, so he had heard about Golden Engineering, and he told me where it was at. He said, you might want to go out there because they're looking for a machinist. So I'm going out driving through the country looking for a factory. up and down the road. No factory out here. So I was laid off, but I was getting $80 a week in unemployment. Carl was working, didn't have any kids, so I'm gonna go back home and do some stuff on the farm. So I went down 38, headed up towards 35. I lived at Webster, and I was going back home. And then somehow I was back in Richmond at Ivy Tech. How did this happen? God had to put me here because I was going home. All of a sudden, I was back at Ivy Tech. So I went, I'm back here again somehow. So I went and talked to the instructor. I said, tell me again where this place is at. So he told me again. So I went out on the Means Road, which was called West Grove Road at the time. And there were two old guys along the fence road. And back then, it was popular to burn the fence roads. So those two old guys burned the fence rows right there on Sowers Road, and it was George Sowers. I said, "Do you know anything about this Golden Engineering place?" He goes, "Yeah, it's that old fellow down there. I think he works for the CIA." You know? They make them bomb detectors.
Yeah. It's conspiracy.
So that brown building was Golden Engineering, and that was my first impression of Golden Engineering. Yeah.
So how long did you think you would work here?
Just until I got called back to NATCO. Yeah. Because I was, gonna make like $4.75 an hour, and I was making like $8 an hour at NATCO. So I thought, well, it's something I can do until, I get a real job, in a real factory.
So then, switching gears, when did you think you'd retire from here?
I still can't quite get around to that. I guess maybe today.
Fair enough. So what's your most vivid or best, either John or Mary, memory?
Oh, it was probably first year or two I worked there, and John had put hay out in the front fields in front of the building, and he loved farming much more than making x-rays. So it was a hot day, and he wanted me to help him bale hay. I said, "Okay, I'll help you bale hay." So we were out there baling hay, and I was on the wagon, and he was on the wagon also, and Mary was driving the tractor. And she was upset because he was supposed to be making tubes, and he was out there making hay instead. So he thought, "I'll butter her up." So he jumped off the wagon, and it was in the summertime. There were these really pretty flowers along the creek right there. So he runs over and he picks off a few of these wild flowers, and he runs up and stops Mary on the tractor and hands them up to her, and she looks at him, threw them on the ground. Then he looked back at me, he's like, "Oh, that's right." Yeah, it was a great memory of those two. That's how she loved him to death, but she was upset because he wasn't making tubes. He tried to make her happy. And, okay, let's go back to farming.
Well, this is maybe similar to what you just said, but most unexpected or oddest request of something to do or make.
There at the house, they just, had moved into the new building, the new house down there, and they were doing something with the bathroom. And something about, there was a door that they could open and close that covered, I don't know, a hot tub or bath or something.
Yeah.
And so you had to make a knob for that. So can you make a knob for my, so I made a knob for the hot tub.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the most challenging or difficult thing you remember making?
I think it was the vacuum box that was also the tooling plate for the cassettes that we made, the big metal cassettes, because we had the 160 sheet of aluminum that was pretty long and pretty wide, and we had to mill a deep pocket in the whole thing. And so I incorporated the vacuum oven into the VF2 mill. I'd run a hose in there, I'd pull a vacuum on the plate and clamp it down, and then use the big 2-inch cutter to remove all that material. And it was quite a challenge to design the plate, the vacuum box, and the program to keep it from chattering. So I was pretty impressed with myself. To machine all that material out there without it warping.
Was that with what machine did you
It was
use?
the VF2, the Haas,
Yeah, okay.
the big Haas.
Okay. What's the best thing you ate at a company event?
Probably the brisket burgers.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the best
Yeah.
thing that
Those were good.
smoked those. Those are awesome.
So the most anticipated, like, I get to do this today. That's on the good, like I get to go into work and I get to do this today. What thing excited you the most, or is like?
Anytime we had a new difficult part to program on the lathe, because it's just such a fun challenge to be able to see what tools it's going to take, how material's going to come out. So I mean, the mundane part of once you had it running was just boring after a while, you know. It's great when you have two machines running at the same time, so you feel productive.
Right.
But when you have a new challenging part, some of the parts that we just recently made for Oak Ridge were a bit that way, but others were even more challenging. You know, you had a new part that was going to be difficult to program. That was like something I lay in bed thinking about the night before and look forward to programming it.
So on the other side, what was the most dreaded, I have to do this today?
Oh, it had to be the processors.
Oh, yeah.
In the summertime, when we were running this vacuum oven, and you know, it was really hot in here already, and you couldn't use the air conditioning because it just got too hot. And you'd put that big piece of plastic in the oven, and you heat it up, and it would start to smoke, and you get the fumes coming out, and you'd pull it out, and you'd turn the vacuum on. While it was cooling, you had to take the piece you just made, run it to the saw real quick, and then run it to the other saw, then put it on the map servo, and be back in time so you didn't melt that plastic, and do it for like 10 or 12 hours. So, I mean, they made 6,000 of those.
Almost 6,000.
You had to put them all together, remember that?
Yeah, you were mean to me every time you had to do it.
So, this is maybe a duplicate greatest accomplishment. Or would you say that was the machining thing you did, or would you do something different?
Yeah, the machining thing, and then when we were really busy and handling not just the machining, but assigning work, order tooling, you know, things that, you know, I've kind of lost in the last few years because Travis has taken over a bunch of that. But, you know, being able to handle the prototype and the production and the tooling and the managing of the jobs and the inventory.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you were 24 when you started. What do you miss most about being 24?
I probably better not say.
Fair enough. What are you looking forward to the most about retirement?
Probably just spending more time with my grandkids and my wife. Just, you know, doing fun things. We worked so hard for so long.
Yeah. So, are there any words of wisdom the 65-year-old Mike would tell the 24-year-old Mike?
Gosh, I could just fill a plug. I mean, it's easy to look back now and have wisdom and say, well, you know, have, you know, more confidence and more faith and be patient with things and don't be in a hurry.
So someone asked you, say, new friends you meet, and they say, why on earth did you work there for so long? What would, anything come to mind, or?
It was just, you know, it was just impossible to leave. It became my place. Golden Engineering became my company. You couldn't leave your company. You know, I never looked at it. After a while, I don't know how it happened, but it wasn't my job. It was my company, and you can't leave your own company. So I felt like it was mine.
Yeah. Do you have any words of wisdom for those left behind?
No, just keep doing what we've been doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a family business. You don't treat it that way. Keep it as your own. Make that own your job and treat it like it's your company.
Does anyone have any questions? Any other questions they want to ask or comments?
Nope. Good.
Yeah. Mike will have to tell what it is, but you throw the 24-year-old out there and stuff. But to put it in perspective, he's down there at the school building. He's working 2 jobs. Was it Birch he was working at nights?
Yeah.
He'd come to work at Golden's during the day, and he would sleep in the car for that hour. And then he would jump up and go again. And I'm on the other side running the garage thinking, could I have 5 of those?
Yeah.
And then he went home and did farm work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
In between there.
that's what it takes. Yeah.
I couldn't decide if I wanted to stay at Golden's or go back either Birch or Natco. So there was times, as much as 6 months straight, that I'd work 2 jobs. I'd work nights at like a Natco. I'd go in and work at 8 o'clock at night and work till 6:30 in the morning, and then come over here and start at 7 and work till 3:30 or 4 and go home and get 2 hours to sleep and get up and do it again.
Some of those years you were having those real bad migraines, remember, Mike?
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
He still has them.
Still get them once in a while,
Does he?
not as much.
That's probably from your sleep.
Yeah, I think probably.
Been riveted
Yeah.
to it.
I just feel so fortunate to have found this place. It's been such a blessing, you know, not just, you know, the monetary compensation, but it's just, you know, the security of knowing every day that, you know, you're gonna go to a job that you don't hate. And the job's not gonna go away, you're not gonna get laid off. So, you know, your kids know mom and dad are gonna get along well because there's no financial burden. And you can share that, you know, optimism, you know, throughout your life, because it was just such a blessing to know that every day I had, you know, I knew where I was gonna go on Monday morning. I was gonna go to a job that I never hated. It was just such a blessing to be, you know, brought to this place and to have been here this long. So, I appreciate everyone I got to work with and everyone I work with now. It's kind of like a dream come true. Most people don't get that opportunity in life. You know, you're pushed around here and there, different jobs, and that security is not there. So it's just,
And it's not asking for your input either at which party or,
yeah,
and it's,
yeah.
Roger and all of them always say, our place, or we are doing this.
Yeah, it's yeah,
It's
it's
never
our product.
I.
No.
I think I had 6 W-2s when I was 18.
Anyone else?
He's always said what a blessing this family is for him. Okay.
I think everybody if it's ever worked
Mhm.
here, will say that.
Yeah.
I've always said. It's not real, it's just not real.
No, it's not real. It's very special.
Well, I can
appreciate
remember,
it.
I can remember when I first came to Golden, and it was Mike Cooper, and Lee, and Jim Hopstick. Barb wasn't here because she was on the sick leave, and they made me feel welcome. And I knew right then and there, this is where the Lord wanted me to be with Golden's. I knew Mary and John, and, but I didn't know what they did. I had no clue what they did, and I needed a job, and Mary said, come out, and I did. And Golden Engineering to me is a family. And we love our family.
I did the same thing as Mike, when I first come here, when I went home, I said to Marvin, I was here 2 or 3 days, and I worked in the second room here, I don't know, anyway, and I did processors when I first come. And, John would go around and be going, cut across the rooms, and I said to my husband, there's some older man like me out there, I don't know what he does. I had no idea what he does there. I had no idea it was John Golden, just exactly like Mike.
Yeah.
I didn't have an idea. What you guys had to tell me, I didn't. He never put on anything, I mean, he just.
He was up in
Did you, Mom? I was always so nervous about doing that. Cooper was what Mike was wonderful. Cooper and Mike were mostly, my boss is Todd, kind of was. Told him what to do. He's only 19.
Yeah, he's a teenager. When I first moved into the building, I had 5 teenagers working for me at one time in like 1990, 1991. I had Todd, and Michael Linderman, and Scott Rodas, Scott Garris, Wayne Filan's boy, Zach. So I had 5 teenagers.
And the Linderman, did you
Yeah.
say Mike Linderman?
Yeah, Mike Linderman,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was here in the
Yeah.
summertime, yes.
Yeah. And once in a while I had Carol too. She wasn't a teenager then, but we just had a bunch of manual machines, you know. I tried to find jobs. We had little Hardins, we had, you know, manual Bridgeports, and I stick somebody on the buffer all day long. They love that. It's been great.
Alright, anyone else?
Phil was just out of college. I remember the first time I come, and I brought Barbara with me. to put in her application down at that little brown building.
Yep.
And Philip was in there, you must have just been home from college or out, just gotten out of college.
Which I was out of college.
He's
so-
just a little kid like you. T-shirt, just like we said, John did, only
Yep.
his Phillips was real clean.
Yeah.
And I can remember that so plain, that he was working there, but Mary was also there, that, she was taking the applications. I
Oh,
think.
sure.
And, Lee was there.
Oh, yeah. Doors.
I don't remember if Doris was there yet or not. She probably, after that, cause I think did Barb come before Doris? I don't know, is Doris here?
Come about the same time. Doors might have been a little behind for her.
Yeah, I knew they come close together like Louise.
He
Hey,
is-
Mike, 39,000's a huge number, but 40's a round number.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 39's enough.
All right, well, I'll try to make it through this. I've got one page here. We'll see how it goes. So on March 17th, 2016, Peyton Manning delivered his football retirement speech. He closed that speech with the following words: "I fought a good fight. I finished my football race, and after 18 years, it's time." So Manning wasn't the first person to utter those words. Someone named Paul uttered those words 2,000 years ago, as he was approaching the end of his life. He stated, "I fought the good fight, I finished the race, and I've kept the faith." I can't think of a more appropriate words to honor Mike Turner's career at Golden Engineering. Mike has fought a good fight. His fight was not opposing linebackers, overzealous Jews, or the oppressive Roman government. Mike's fight began in an old school bus garage with no AC and marginal heating. He had to fight the inconvenience of crossing a sometimes cold, wet, or snowy parking lot to reach the bathroom. I'm sure you remember that. Not to mention the assembly area or service area. Cell phones back in the day certainly would have made things more convenient, for sure. That was, he had to fight the manufacturing, machining process of making a rectangular product with machines that were more conducive to making round parts. At times, Mike had to fight the frustration of a boss more interested in harvesting a crop of beans than making a batch of tubes. You alluded to that.
Yeah.
Very true. Mike had to fight through the monologues to reach the product improvement discussions. Mike had to fight the urge to stay with the familiar and comfortable technology to embrace the unfamiliar, yet more efficient CNC technology. It was a good fight. Rather than producing lots of touchdowns and entertaining the crowd, Mike produced lots of parts and helped support his coworkers. He supported his coworkers by making the tooling and fixtures they needed to do their jobs. All of this effort helped the company deliver products that saved lives and changed lives. No one knows the number of police officers or military personnel that would have been killed by an explosive device. I'll be all right. All right. If not for the parts that Mike had made. Paul's words were reflective on his life. It's a little blurry. They were looking back at what he had done, but he also looked ahead to what was next. His next words were, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." So I don't have a crown, but I do have a check and a gift. So.
Thank you.
And an even greater gift is awaiting, which will be time. Time that you have to enjoy your family, time to do the things you really want to do instead of the things that you have to do. Finally, I can't ignore the change I've seen in Mike over the last 10 years. A guy named Mike Nottingham once said, "I'm certain of my eternal destiny, and I'm pretty certain about my wife's, but I don't know beyond that." I would agree with that statement, but if I were making a guess about Mike Turner, based on what I've witnessed the last 10 years, I would guess that he's in line for one of those crowns Paul talked about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Might be a box cutter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You got a knife? Of course he has a knife.
Is that an X-ray to set up on your mailer?
That's a pretty package.
Yeah, it was. One more time.
Put that knife away, be quick.
How many games do you?
I don't know, I can't see it. Somebody's got a box cutter. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that's cool. That's that X-ray of the Mini Cooper.
So you thought you were getting away from work, but it's.
Oh, that's great. That'll be a place in my new house.
Yep.
That is so nice. Thank you, Robert. And take that bubble wrap with you, give you something to do.